Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for choosing to spend part of your evening, morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, with us to talk about women working in the tech industry. You're about to hear from an awesome lineup of panelists, and after our moderated Q&A section, you're going to have the opportunity to ask them all of your questions as well. So I'm Jordan. I am a marketing team member at Flatiron School. If you're not familiar with Flatiron School, I'm going to give you a little 101 in just a second. I'll be behind the scenes tonight. I'll be managing the Q&A and the chat box, while my wonderful colleague Jocelyn is going to be our moderator. She's our marketing community manager at Flatiron School. So here's what we have in store. Welcome, currently in progress. Then I'm going to go over a little bit for our new friends, share a little bit about Flatiron School. And then we'll get into a moderated panel where Jocelyn has some questions to ask our panelists. And then we're going to open it up and have plenty of time for audience Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions at any time in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll circle back to them at the end. All right, a little bit about who we are at Flatiron School. So we were founded in 2012 in New York City. We're an award-winning boot camp that has helped thousands of graduates break into tech and land jobs that they love. We believe that education is the best investment you can make in your future, which is why this is our mission statement here on the screen. At Flatiron School, we currently offer career-changing courses in software engineering, data science, cybersecurity, and product design with flexible pacing options to fit your life and your schedule. We have campuses across the country in these cities that are listed here, and many of those campuses are starting to reopen for students to use, which is very exciting. Our North Star and what we feel is our true differentiator is our proven job search framework, which has helped thousands of grads break into the tech industry, including two of whom are on the panel this evening. And we help grads land jobs at companies like these and many, many more. Since this panel is focused around women in tech, we just wanted to highlight some of the work that we have done to help women break into this awesome industry. Women are enrolling in Flatiron School and they're succeeding. This is a stat from our 2020 jobs report. Our female graduates had a 90% placement rate and a $72,280 starting salary, which was actually, both those metrics were higher for women than they were for our male grads. So very, very exciting and something that we are proud of. With that, I think my screen is being like a little laggy. There we go. Just one final reminder, drop any questions that you have for our panelists in the Q&A box or the chat box. I'll be monitoring those for like logistics questions. Otherwise, we're gonna save all questions to the end. I will also be sending a recording of this conversation as part of our recap. So you will have that in your email first thing tomorrow. With that, I am going to hand it over to Jocelyn, our moderator. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about our Tech Girl Summer campaign before getting into our panel conversation.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jocelyn. As Jordan said, I'm the marketing community manager at Flatiron School, and I'll be moderating this evening's discussion. You may have seen that the flyers for this event and all over our social media right now, this Tech Girl Summer, a hashtag that we've been definitely tossing around a lot. Basically what that is a movement that we're starting here. We really believe that there should be more women in tech. We've made so many strides just as a society in terms of, women being more represented in these fields, but it's still not nearly enough. We still see far more men, in leadership roles and in roles, period, when it comes to the tech industry. So we want to change that. And it starts with having conversations like we're going to have tonight. But it also starts with helping women out. So part of this campaign is really pushing our Women Take Tech scholarship that we have at Flatiron School. Basically, women who are looking to get started, change careers, and really take that leap of faith into a tech career, we want to help them get started. And so you can get up to $3,000 to take one of our courses. So definitely take a look at our website. And it's just looped into our application process to see if you're eligible for that scholarship. But yeah, we're trying to make this summer a Tech Girl summer, whether you are already in your tech career or you are looking to do that with Flatiron School. Now's the time, right? Summer is for transformation, it's for rejuvenation. So now's the time. Today also happens to be Women's Equality Day, so shout out to that. Happy Women's Equality Day, everyone. And just a little bit of background there, that used to be, or it started off to commemorate women having the right to vote. And now, of course, we use it to celebrate women being able to do anything. So, you know, it's definitely the perfect moment for us to be having this conversation. And we're super excited to be here tonight with all these wonderful ladies. But before I hop into introductions, I have one more thing that I want to share with you, or one more reminder. Definitely follow us on our social media channels. We're going to drop the links down in the chat so that you guys can do that. But at Flatiron School, pretty much across all of the different platforms. Two reasons you want to do this. One, after this event is over, we're going to want to keep in touch. We're going to want to, you know, continue that sense of community and the conversations that we're going to start tonight. And then also with our Tech Girl Summer campaign coming up, we have a lot of exciting things, some giveaways, maybe some really cool things that you'll see come across our social media channels. So you don't want to miss out on that. But without further ado, let's get into it. We've got an awesome panel. And I'm going to start off by having everybody introduce themselves. We've got a couple of alumni in the mix. We've got some people who are more on the recruiting side. So let's go ahead and get started. I will kick it off with Linda, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda. I'm a software engineer and a site reliability engineer at Fox. I'm an AWS community builder and the founder of STEM-inspired jewelry shop, Coding Crystals, and I'm based out of New York. And I am also an alumni of Flatiron School. I graduated 6 years ago. So
awesome.
And then, my heart.
Yes, and we love you, Linda. She's created some awesome content, just even talking about her experience. So definitely you'll want to check out her accounts to follow her journey. Next, we'll kick it over to our other alum on the panel, Janine.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today. It's so awesome to have you all here. I'm Janine and I'm actually based in London in the UK. So it's like midnight right now, but I'm super excited to be here. I'm originally from Hong Kong, and since the age of 11, I've lived in Northern Ireland, Canada, France, and now the UK. I work at Avast as a software engineer, and I'm also holding the role as chair of Women at Avast, which is our employee resource group. And yeah, I am very passionate about coding, ethical hacking, security research, and I also love dance, music, DJing, all that fun stuff. So yeah, looking forward to this panel.
Yes, Janine's Instagram is full of a mixture of things. She truly showcases that women can do it all. So definitely check out her accounts as well. And now we will kick it off with Allie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here tonight. So I'm Allie. I am one of 2 diversity technical sourcers at ZocDoc. The mission of ZocDoc is really to give power to the patient, allow them to really easily book appointments with doctors that they're interested in seeing. I'm also the founder of Baddies in Tech. Our mission is to advance the careers of Black and Brown women in tech. So we do a bunch of different things, from career development workshops to hackathons to resources. So yeah, I'm really just excited to be here, speak about my journey in tech, and really just be here fellowshipping with these beautiful women.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Allie. And last but not least, Maya, aka Maya Loves Code, is in the building. Definitely go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Maya Bello, and I'm a software engineer that currently works at Slack. in my free time, I do love to create content. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, out here just telling people about tech and trying to get more people into this. It's because I think it's really cool. And yeah, excited to be here with everyone.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. We're going to go ahead and go back to both of our alums and kind of dive into what were you doing before you went to Flatiron School, and what really inspired you to pursue a career in tech? Janine, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I actually did my bachelor's degree in luxury marketing and international business development in the south of France. And I was working in the yacht industry in the marketing team. And I really enjoyed the role a lot. And obviously, with it being such a niche industry, it was super fun. But at the same time, I slowly realized that the work that I was doing wasn't quite, it was getting a little bit repetitive for me personally. And I just felt like I wanted to challenge myself a bit more. So in my role at the time, I also did a little bit of e-marketing. So I touched on HTML, CSS, but quite basic levels of coding. So I decided to venture out, challenge myself, and develop my coding skills from what I knew, first through kind of free online platforms. But then after a while, I realized that I really wanted to dive deep into the coding side of things. So I decided to apply for Flatiron School's software engineering program. And at the time it was London based. So I did that. And yeah, I got my job like a week after graduating. So it was really amazing. And I've been in the same company ever since. And it's been like, I think like 2.5 years since I've been working at Avast, and I really enjoy it so far.
Awesome. Awesome. And same question for you, Linda. What kind of led you to Flatiron School, and what made you decide to choose a tech career?
Yeah, so similarly, a lot of us have like untraditional paths. I was a philosophy major in college. I thought I was going to go to law school. And post-college, I worked in TV production. So completely different. Did not take a computer science class in my life in college. And realized the reason I wanted to go to law school was because I loved learning something new, but didn't know if I would be happy being a lawyer. And throughout that process, I did a lot of things, as many people do out of college through those jobs. I was building websites suddenly for anchors, and I started dabbling with code and realized how much I loved it. At the same time, I was also working, and still am, as a part-time wedding singer. So I was always in music, and for me, like I found a lot of correlation there. But the part that's really tough about transitioning is community. And I knew I needed that community to study to get to that point that I can make that switch. And Flatiron School, like the minute I walked into that open house, I knew it was the right school for me. And I quit my job, took a loan, and went to the Flatiron School. Post that, I ended up as a JavaScript developer for 5 years. And now I actually shifted into more of a cloud computing role, which is very much still coding, just SRE. So continuing always to learn something new and innovate, but it gave me the tools for that. So that's the quick.
I love that you mentioned, and just this idea of, you dabbled in some things, and Janine, you as well, because I think a lot of people feel so intimidated, right, by a career in tech, right, and they think that you have to have some extensive math background, and those sorts of things. But I think it's really awesome that like you guys are living proof that you can come from a kind of untraditional background in that sense of, you thought you were going to be a lawyer. Janine was in marketing, all great things to see. Linda, you touched on it a little bit, so I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, but you said you knew that Flatiron School was the right school for you. Did you know that you wanted to go the route of a boot camp, or what kind of led you to say, okay, a boot camp seems like that's going to get me where I need to go?
That's a great question. So actually, while I was trying to figure out my path, and I wanted to see if I wanted to do code, like I loved it, I was trying it, but I was like scared. I was working at the time, I was engaged, about to get married. I wasn't sure if I was going to switch, like how I'm going to do that. I knew I had to quit because I felt like as I was trying to study on my own, it was very hard to like keep on building on top of things when I'm walking in to work at 3 a.m. working TV production hours, which just wasn't kind for that. And I also really knew that I will do it faster if I'm in a boot camp And for me, the community aspect and the support was really important. I just knew that, yes, I could do, I definitely think like, you know, I was able to get to a point that I could make the most out of the bootcamp by self-studying prior, but it was definitely a fast track for me. And the part that I still like feel like was crucial was that everyone around me was super determined to do the same. And I think that's I didn't just learn from my teachers at Flatiron School, I learned from the people that were with me. And I think Flatiron School did a very good job at getting the right cohorts together too, and building a community for people to ask questions. I think that's really important. Especially when coding, which is or learning something in tech, it could be super overwhelming. And for me also was the diversity aspect. When I walked into the Flatiron School, there were just more people that I felt I related to, and it just felt like the right program for me, you know? So, I did look around. I was very much doing my research, so.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's super important. You need to feel supported. You know, any task that anyone is pursuing in life, you know, there's a huge percentage of that is mental, right? And getting past some of those mental blocks and having the right people in place to help you get through that and to inspire you and encourage you is so important. I'm going to open up this next question to everyone on the panel, so feel free to kind of chime in as you know, feel that you have something to add. But the question is, as you were looking to start your career in tech, did you experience any obstacles, right? So Janine, Linda, this could be, you know, even in your process of choosing a boot camp, or Ali, Maya, whatever path that you guys took, there's, I'm sure, a million different obstacles that may have come your way. Let me know, what were they, and fill us in on what you did to push past them.
I can go. I think one of the biggest obstacles I faced, and I think a lot of people in the Baddies in Tech community and just around that I've noticed have faced, is really the fact that the tech industry is very broad. So there's a lot that you can do. And, you know, especially if you're coming from a non-traditional background, it can be hard to know what fits, you know, what you'll enjoy in order to have like a, you know, a fulfilling career. And so I think for me, it was really sitting down and figuring out like what transferable skills I had, right? Like what have I done in the past that could transfer to the tech industry? And for me, you know, I had worked, so I have a background in biology and like healthcare and things like that. So very unrelated to like recruiting and technical recruiting. But the way I made my way into the industry was I had worked in an emergency department for 2 years undergrad. So I had worked on like EMR software, which is like the software that doctors use to complete patient notes. And I was like, oh, well, that's software. So that means that there's tech companies that build those things. So like maybe I should look at working at one of those companies and look at roles that, you know, my skills could transfer to. So I really think it's about like not discarding your background, right? Like knowing that those things, like tech is in every sector. And so knowing that like you can find a tech job that is related in some way to your background, and really like taking the time to dig into that first.
I love that. I think that's such a little golden nugget of information, because I think that is something that a lot of people would pursue or would perceive as an obstacle, right? Like, oh, I started in marketing. Oh, I started in, you know, thinking I was going to be a lawyer. Oh, I thought I was going to go into the medical field. But these things can help because tech is everywhere. Everybody needs all of these different roles within tech, whether it be software engineering or data science, et cetera. So love that, Ali. And what about you, Maya? What obstacles have you faced and overcome? How did you push through them?
Yeah, so many obstacles. I'm trying to pick which one I want to go with, but coding was super hard for me when I got started with it. So I do come from a traditional background. I didn't choose it traditionally. Like I did do computer science, but it was kind of like a gotcha to my parents. Like they were like, you must choose a major in college. So like to every college I picked, I chose like a random major. So I just got the most financial aid to a school where I chose computer science, and that was it. That was the thought process. But I was in a summer program for people with no experience, and the RA actually told me that I should choose a different major. they were like, you're not really understanding the concepts, you're struggling a little bit. Well, they didn't say a little bit, they said you're struggling, you should do something else. And I was just so taken aback by that. But I'm actually glad it happened because I'm such a stubborn person. Like, tell me I can't do something and I'm gonna be right there in the front proving it to you. So that was kind of like how it started. And I know Linda was talking about community. It's crazy because I felt like I didn't have a community going the traditional route. So the school I went to, it was less than 1% Black. It was a huge university. So I would be in classes full of 400 people and I am the only Black woman there. And it was just crazy. But like, I just knew that tech was like on the rise, you know, like I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically, but it just felt like, it just felt right. You know, I think that's kind of like what Linda was talking about when she chose like Flatiron, like it's kind of like that feeling that you get. And I was just like, I'm going to stick through this. And it wasn't until I actually took like an app making class that I was like, I love the idea of a team coming together and building something out of nothing. And I just like held on to that as I took like some of these other classes that I didn't really care for too much. But I think, yeah, so the hardest part was the coding aspect of it. But, you know, just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not for you. So I just had to like hold on to that. And yeah, now it's not hard anymore. So yeah.
I love that. And that's another one of those little golden nuggets of information. Just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not for you. I love that. Words to live by, everyone. Okay, so I have another question to kind of throw out to everyone as well. What role did mentors, if any, play in your journey? And if it wasn't mentors, maybe we can talk more about your peers. Basically, who was around you? Who's been your circle to help push you, you know, whether it be while you were, you know, still at Flatiron School or getting an education, or even just in your career? Let's start with you, Janine.
Yeah, sure. So actually, at the very beginning of my journey into tech, I attended this tech event. It was like a random one that I saw on meetup.com. And I was like, hey, I have no idea what this means, but I'm just going to attend anyways. And one of the speakers actually, she came from a similar background as me. So she actually did business development and then became a software engineer and now is a security engineer. And I asked loads of questions during the event because I just thought her journey was super cool. And I was still working in marketing at the time. And we just became friends initially. And over time, like she just helped me out with any questions I had about, I don't know, like coding or finding a job or whatever. And eventually that friendship built kind of became a mentorship. And I don't even think she realized like how big of an impact she played in my life. But yeah, she introduced me to the world of cybersecurity, how to improve my code quality, like add extra little bits on GitHub Marketplace that could improve my coding in general. And also she pushed me to question like what else I can do to improve what I already have, and also supported me when it came to salary negotiations. I think this is something that we don't talk a lot about at all in the industry, and it's kind of hidden sometimes as well, given I don't know why it is. I feel like it should be a bit more transparent so that it's a bit more fair. But I think having a mentor to like support me and tell me, okay, like if you feel like you want to ask for this amount of money, then prove it. Like what skills do you have? What can you give to the company to show them that you deserve that, and just fight for what you think you deserve. And eventually, you know, I got to a place where I'm super happy with, and I don't think I would have had that confidence without her supporting me. So I think that's why mentorship is super important when it comes to tech. And yeah.
I love that. Allie, I know you have Baddies in Tech, which is this whole community that you've built online. Within that, do you find yourself mentoring others? How does that work? And how does that community just kind of support each other?
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I've always been kind of like a do-it-myself person. So I don't feel like I've ever had direct mentors, but I've always watched other people and gotten advice, you know, just from afar. But within the Baddies in Tech community, yes, there's a lot of mentorship and just a lot of support that goes on within that space. I find myself like the other day, we had one of the baddies was like, going for an interview, and she was stating the salary that they had mentioned, and it was for a managerial position. And I'm like, no, like you got to ask for more, right? And so it's like coaching and encouraging through those types of conversations. And within the space as well, right? Like we have a Discord community, so sometimes there might be like a technical question that someone needs help with, and they'll just ping like the engineering tag, and someone will hop in and they'll go off and kind of solve problems together. So I think, for me, starting that community was because I had joined the tech industry and like saw a stark lack of diversity. And I'm like, where are all the pretty Black girls at? Like, where are all the girls who look like me in the tech space? And that's why I started Baddies in Tech, was like, I really needed that community. So I think, as anyone is starting their journey, it's really important to find people who, maybe are at a higher level than you and can mentor you, or people who are on the same level that you can co-mentor and that you can, just build community and learn together around and grow together around. So yeah.
I love that. And are there any, I'd say like questions or kind of like top concerns that people kind of come to the community with that they're, looking for guidance on?
It varies. It can be like a technical question. It can be questions about resources. It can be questions about salary and what, like interviewing and things like that. It's really wide. And I think we've kept it broad on purpose because of the fact that the industry is like, again, so broad. And like we all need that support, like no matter what specific tech space we're in. And so, yeah, we've tried to organize, like especially the Discord community, in a way that people can be specific, but also have like a general discussion about anything that might come up in your day as a woman in tech. It could be like, I'm frustrated because my client sucks, right? Or, I'm going for an interview. Do you guys have any advice? So it's really broad. I think we face the same things as anyone else in any industry, but with like a lens of intersectionality, and how does that affect how we respond? Yeah.
I love that. That's so awesome. I think, as women, we need to be able to find spaces where there are other women to help guide us and to help pave the way. And as women of color, that same thing, like you said, that intersectionality is super important. All right, let's go over to Maya. Any thoughts on this? Any mentors that you've had or anyone that you've mentored?
Yeah, I love that Ali was talking about like co-mentoring, just because, you can find someone that's like in the same classes as you, in your boot camp as you, and you might understand a topic a little bit more than someone else or vice versa. And you all can like teach each other. And I found myself when I was learning to code, sometimes going to like the smartest person in the room just didn't work. And like struggling through the problem with someone and like reaching a solution together was like so powerful. So co-mentorship is so important. And then also through Instagram. So while I was doing all my interview prep and trying to get a new job, I just reached out to someone on Instagram, and like I was asking like really good questions, and then soon that led to a Zoom call, and like now that person is my mentor. So it's like the power of social media is so important. So don't be afraid to like, don't just reach out like, hey, can you be my mentor? Just because some people are like really busy, but it starts with like asking those like specific questions that maybe you can't Google, and like diving in deeper. People will be really like impressed by that. So, and then for mentoring others, like super proud that I'm able to give back. So whether it's like giving a little bit of tips, on my YouTube channel, or like I actually helped 2 people get an internship for the first time, like help them with all the interview prep. So I just think like to get here, it took a lot. So we're all willing to like give back.
I love that. And Linda, any thoughts?
Yeah, I keep wanting to heart everyone's responses, and I realize that there's a panelist. I don't have an emoji. Like, where's the Zoom emoji? No, first of all, amazing. I really relate to a lot of what was said. And one thing to add, yeah, like I think speaking on social media, like for me, I didn't have a mentor, and social media was the reason. Mindset is a lot of it, right? Especially when you're going through the process of getting into tech, it really is overwhelming, and you want to believe you could do it. And you have to surround yourself with relatability with support. And while I never had a mentor, I really knew that to do that, it wasn't just the studying part, it was the surrounding myself with the right feed and the right people and the right vibe and the support of like, even just seeing somebody on Instagram that was doing that, it made me feel like I could do it too. And I met so many people through social media and meetups. I used the Meetup app a lot when I was trying to, transition in and to just like be in the community, because I didn't know anybody in the industry. And that was a huge part of it. I think it was why I was able to maybe do it in a faster way and with more support to and set myself up for more success there. So that was definitely one of the big things I kind of like recommend to people when they're trying to transition or get into tech. Like, surround yourself with support and try to really reach out, like you said, with specific questions, and use social media for that too.
I love that. What I love about each of you ladies is this willingness to give back and to help out others in the same way that others have helped you, or that you needed help when you were starting out. And I think that's so wonderful. It's so great to see, for sure. Linda, you have Coding Crystals, your company that you founded, and I know that a portion of the proceeds gives back to younger generations of STEM. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that look like? And what made you decide to kind of take that approach?
Yeah, like for me, I think where it started was when I was starting to get into the industry. I felt like even within like, okay, you have so many different people, and representation really matters. For me, like I felt like not everybody likes, that style of Coding Crystals, but for me, it was just like that part wasn't represented enough or owned enough. And it was something that I personally was very passionate about and wanted to do good with that. Like for me, it was never about like, oh, an e-commerce, of course, it's great to have that business, but for me, it was really about giving back, building community, and getting to help through that. There's so many different ways to do that, but I felt like, I'm able to kind of give back to different causes, and through that also show others. Like I have teachers reaching out to me that wear that in class. And for me, like just seeing that, like, I hope that girl in school like sees that and says, oh, it's not just like, it's like having a very, some people love Barbie, so they want to see like something that has that ingrained, and it is subconscious too. And being able to really know that a lot of the problem, I think, in tech was that I don't think it's introduced also enough early. I think a lot of the things are not geared towards certain communities and certain people. And these products are for everybody, so they should be built by everybody. And whether it's Coding Crystals that does that kind of style or something else, like for me, it was just an expression, and also to show that there's a lot of creativity in it too. I think that part also, sometimes people don't realize how creative tech can be, because really it is about building the products. And that's a huge part of it also. So that's a little bit of that. It was a little bit of a babble, but
No, I love what you just said about having a teacher wearing an accessory that speaks to coding. That's going to, like you said, that's going to kind of unlock in a young child's mind that maybe identifies with, oh, I wear barrettes like that, or I love that style, and understand and make that connection that they can be in that space too. And that's so important. And the work that you're doing there is so awesome. In that same kind of vein of thought, of kind of giving back, Janine, I know you've mentioned that with your current job that you are a part of a team or a chair as like a women's resource. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, whenever I first started my role as a software engineer, I kind of felt like I wasn't really utilizing enough marketing side of like all the learning that I had in the past. And I just felt like in the company, like there was a massive potential to actually, improve things in terms of diversity. And so I asked my manager, hey, is there anything I can do that can improve things? And so we didn't actually even have a D&I team when I joined like 3 years ago. And after a year and a half, it became established. And so it was like the first thing on my mind to sign up to volunteer, do whatever I can, even if it's not in my job description, right? And even if it meant working extra hours or doing things that my manager doesn't even have a clue what I'm doing. And so eventually, being a D&I ambassador led to another thing and another thing. And then developing this employee resource group where I can help all women or, non-binary people who kind of want to join this group to learn how to code or help develop their career or look for one-to-one mentors and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's something that I honestly feel so happy that I can do, to have this sort of a hybrid role, I guess, in a way, but obviously I still have to fulfill all the commitments as a software engineer. So yeah, and like one advice I would give as well is that if something doesn't exist yet, or if you're the first to have an idea of something, or if you feel like, oh my gosh, no one has done this before, is this crazy? Like, if it is a crazy idea, you should probably go do it. Like if you're the first person to think of it, you should take that advantage and build something that can potentially help inspire more people to continue that and to do more. And an example of that is, for example, Avast. This year, we established like several external partnerships with organizations that help young girls learn how to code or help women get back into the tech industry and stuff like that. And all this wouldn't have existed without the D&I team, without the Women at Avast, ERG. So yeah.
I love that. And, a recent data shows basically that 25% of employees at tech's largest companies are women, right? So only a fourth. How can companies in the tech industry do a better job of creating pathways, right? So Janine, I love that you've talked about, creating resources, and we need to see more of that. Let's kind of build on this. Linda, Ali, Maya, any other thoughts on what can companies do to make this a space where women want to go, where women have a pathway to get there? What are some of the things they can do?
I think to Janine's point, right? Like employee resource groups are really important. It's really important to create that belonging inside the company so that we can retain women, right? Like you don't want to, like it's bad enough that like we don't have so many women interested, or maybe they're like interested but haven't had the opportunities to get in. But then once they're in, like we can't have like a leaky pipeline where they're dropping off because they're being harassed or they don't feel like they belong because they're the only on their team. So I think it's really important to really create those spaces. ZocDoc is the first company that I've been a part of that I felt like I really belong. We have a ton of employee resource groups. My team in particular has like 4 other Black people. 3 of those other 4 are women. So like just like really being intentional about who you're bringing on the teams that you're building, as well as the types of events, the types of activities, the types of ways in which employees can interact together is really important. And then also like just like being intentional about like your audits, like right, like when you're hiring, like who's on the interview panel, right? Are they being like, are women and Black people being represented on those panels? When like you're looking at people being promoted, like are we having like fair promotional systems, right? Are people being left behind? So I think like all of those things are super important in order to like retain people in the industry. And then I think another thing is like moving away from like the traditional ways of how we recruit talent. A lot of like underrepresented people don't have that traditional background of like computer science. So like, how can we do better and be better at identifying raw talent that comes from places like Flatiron School, or self-taught, like just like being creative and knowing that like doing the same things is going to get us the same results. And so we have to like move away and be creative and do things differently in order to really start seeing the diversity that we want to see in the industry.
I love that. Perfectly said. And, to kind of go back to the slide that Jordan showed in the beginning of this event, Flatiron School alone has partnered with a lot of different companies that are saying, okay, hey, let's try to seek out these people. So, definitely is just a little snippet of advice to everyone watching. Definitely, as you go on this journey, try to seek out opportunities that are going to help you to, connect with those companies that are looking to do exactly what Ali just described. Linda, I saw you hop off of mute, so I know you had some thoughts.
Actually, no, and I love this. Is exactly that. I do think it's such a mix. It needs to first of all come from, I do believe, like especially in corporation, it doesn't need to come from the top. There needs to be accountability, like it needs to be in the OKRs, like to really create a culture that they retain women, people of color, like just really have a diverse and inclusive, and the equity part of that is really important. So I sit on the diversity, equity, and inclusion board at both of the company I work for and WIT. So I'm on 2 ERGs, and a lot of that, like, it's really important that the leaders have that diversity, that they're really caring about that. And also from a parenting perspective, I'm a mom of 2, retaining, for example, a person like me, like I really need to feel like I'm supported, and not just like know that it's okay, but I don't feel guilt for having the flexibility in my life that I need to have, and that's super important when you're going into work every day. And I think like we see a lot of people, especially women, sometimes like companies have a hard time retaining women through mid senior career, and it's a lot of times because of that lack, I think, of that a lack of culture. Not, it's not really sometimes ingrained in the culture. So it's a challenge that we have to work on, that I hope we keep improving on every day. There's a lot of work to do, but I have to say, like, I'm glad there's a lot more also a lot of more conversation around that, and a lot more work being done. So
yes, for sure. So I'm going to hop into our last question. And I'm going to ask each of you, we'll just kind of go around the virtual room, so to speak. We have so many attendees here in the audience who have already been inspired by your journeys. What's that last final piece of advice that you have for each woman that's considering pursuing a career in tech? And we'll go ahead and start with you, Maya.
That's such a good question. Wow. I would say, as a piece of advice, is that, like, I was reading this quote from somewhere, and it was like, don't be afraid to suck at something new, or be brave enough to suck at something new. And I would just say, like, when I was going through my journey, like, a lot of times I wanted to give up, but right now I'm so glad that I didn't. So, like, take that risk. Like, know if you put in the work, you can do it. And it's kind of like focusing on progress and not perfection. Oh, that was huge. I would like write that like on all my notebooks, on my hand, everywhere. Progress, not perfection, and you will get to wherever you want to go.
I love that.
I love that. I think I want to go off of that progress, not perfection. I think in my particular story, right, like it's been very incremental to getting to where I am today. I had a biology background, worked at like a health tech company in like technical implementation, quit, became a tech entrepreneur, came back, and now I'm like a technical recruiter. And so I want to like tell people that your first job in tech doesn't even necessarily need to be your last job, right? Like you might have a goal that you want to get to, but sometimes it's incremental steps instead of like a giant leap. And that's okay. It's progress over perfection. I think like even Linda, like now you're doing like site reliability, but like when you started, you were doing something else. And so, yeah, so it's literally okay to like not be at that end goal or not get 6 figures as your like in your first tech job. Like you will get there, you will level up as you learn new things, as you build your network. But it's okay to like get your foot in the door and just start somewhere and then grow from there.
Awesome. Janine?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I always stood by is that what you do today affects all your tomorrows. So kind of like on the idea of taking incremental steps, even if it's just taking 30 minutes today. If 30 minutes is all you have to learn how to code, use that 30 minutes wisely. And, social media is cool, but scrolling on Instagram can, waste 30 minutes really quickly, right? So really be mindful of how you manage your time. If you need to block out time just to make sure you do something, then do it. Like, do what you need to do in order to get things done. And yeah, that's kind of how it helped me, because I am quite a procrastinator sometimes. And so in order for me to really progress with my coding and learning, I really have to block out time and let people around me know that I'm trying to achieve something big, and that sometimes I might not be able to commit to every single thing, which is fine. I mean, I am on a panel at 2 a.m, but still, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes, and we appreciate you being here. And Linda, your last final tidbit of advice.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what I would tell myself when I was going through that process, and it's kind of in line a bit with the theme of what I think a lot of the panel has said. And I'll add a quote. There's a famous quote by Steve Jobs that says, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back." And I think I'm going to go a little more granular on the tech part. When you are studying something new, it's very hard to connect how it all works, especially in tech. And I think part of the overwhelm for me was I kept on trying to chase, as I was studying different things, how does everything work? And it's when you put that pressure on yourself to understand that, when you're trying to learn something specific and you're going through these like labs and different stuff, it's hard to you keep going back to that. So my whole thing is like, no, you will have that epiphany at the end as you're going through the courses and learning, because you will have a few of them actually. And as you niche into different things, I could tell you transitioning from front end to back end to cloud, like you go through a lot of that. Like now I'm in ops. I was in front end. I had, it used to be a magic box. Now I'm in ops. I'm like, you go through all these phases, and the beauty is you're always going to be learning something new. So kind of it's almost like you get used to being uncomfortable, because it's not anymore uncomfortable. Like you kind of like get used to not knowing the answer, knowing how to research it. So that's kind of like a more granular, I think more like of a tech kind of advice. But yeah, I think that apply to everything too. But
Yes, no, awesome. All great things. All really great advice that everybody here, I think, can definitely benefit from hearing. So now I'm going to turn things back over to Jordan. We're going to head into our audience Q&A section. I've been seeing the questions go off in the chat, so I'm super excited to dive in. And so we'll go ahead and get to answering some of those.
Yeah, there's so many great questions here. I apologize in advance that I'm sure we will not get to all of them, but we will try our best. I'm going to start with this question from Jasmine. What would you all do differently when trying to transition into tech?
Ooh, what would you do differently? That's a good one.
It's like it's so much. I would have done differently. I feel like we're all like dropping quotes and all that stuff, so I'll keep that going. But like something that really like helped me was developing that growth mindset. Like I really started off with a fixed mindset and was like, either you're smart or you're not. Like, either you understood the material or you don't. Like, so that really hurt me just because I didn't realize that hard work really does pay off. So, I would have came in more with like that growth mindset. And like a quote that I love is, believe you can and you're halfway there. And like, that's so like important to like believe in yourself, believe you can learn it, believe that with hard work, you can understand a new concept. And that's something I wish that I would have had earlier on. And like, something else that Linda was talking about that it got me thinking is like, don't be afraid to adapt. And that's something that I've been doing. Like, I start off with like front end at my job as well. Now I'm doing back end. And that's because an opportunity came and I was like, why not? Like, let me try this out. So I would say all of that to my younger self.
I love that. All right, anyone else, or should we hop to the next question?
All right. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, like, I think I want to tell myself to do something different, but at the same time, sometimes I think going through that, like as Ali was mentioning that transferable skills, for example, I used to tell myself, oh, I should have started earlier, you know, that kind of thing. Like, oh, I should have gotten into, you know, comp sci where, you know, in college. And realizing that your journey, like you have so many transferable skills, as she mentioned before, and they really do play into tech. Like tech is not just coding, you know, communication, you know, just knowing how to work on a team, and that innovation, that creativity, that it's not just, you know, writing the line of code is the end of that maybe, but like there's a journey to that. There's so many skills that are part of that. And you need every type of developer too. There's different kinds of developers, different kind of personalities, and you need that. So kind of just, you know, owning, I guess, I get maybe the only advice I would give myself is being a little more like, kind of like what Maya was saying, being a little less hard on myself, I would say, in the beginning too. So that's, you know, if you're going through that right now, don't be hard on yourself. That's all.
I completely agree with Linda and Maya. I don't think I would change anything because the journey is what made me who I am today, and is what got me to where I am today. So I don't think I would change a single thing, but the fact that, you know, just trust the journey, like don't dread the journey. Like the journey is like really the biggest part of it, and you kind of learn to like tell a story through that, right? And that story is like what carries your career, because it's yours. Like you own your career. No company owns your career, no job owns your career, you own your career. And so that journey and how you appreciate where you've come from and the things that you've done to get to your goal is really like part of your tech identity. So yeah.
One thing I did want to add as well. So whenever I started learning how to code, I would sometimes get into these bugs that I have to debug. And as soon as I kind of found a solution, I'd be like, yes, I found it. Now I can go get a coffee or I can go get a treat or whatever. But what I would recommend to my younger 3 years ago self is that maybe like take another 5 minutes or 10 or 30 or whatever, and just think about, okay, so I have a solution, but how else can I do it? Like think of other ways, talk to people around you. How else did you solve it? You know, try and expand the ways in which you can find a solution, because a lot of the times in tech, there isn't just one right way to do something. There's so many different ways, a lot of opportunity costs that you can kind of decide what is better. And as someone who was quite junior in the past, like I didn't quite understand that concept. And sometimes when you're debugging stuff, you can get frustrated really easily and impatient. So yeah, I would recommend taking a couple more minutes, taking a deep breath before getting yourself a treat. But yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. We have lots of questions in the chat from kind of the beginning of our conversation, which is just wanting to know a little bit more about like what your kind of work hours look like, your stress level working in tech, and if you're able to work remotely. So some more logistics about your current role.
Yeah, one thing I would say is like choose your company that you work at wisely, just because I have definitely looked into companies that like have a work-life balance, you know, that are actually making efforts to increase like diversity in their different sectors, because not all companies are like that. So like, for example, I have a great work-life balance. That's how I'm able to like, you know, do panels like this and like, you know, volunteer and do other stuff. However, I also have friends who are doing like 60-hour weeks. So I'll definitely say like, look into the culture of the company as like a thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it varies. And I mean, you have a lot of choice. Right now, there's so many tech jobs, there's so many companies hiring. So, you know, if culture and like work-life balance is really important to you, like definitely have that as one of your non-negotiables, things that, you know, you talk about during the interview. Like do your due diligence during the interview panel or during like your interview process, right? Like interview the company as much as they're interviewing you. And then in terms of work from home, I think a lot of companies are offering work from home. My company right now is like completely remote, but like we have a really good office culture. So we're supposed to be doing hybrid next year. And like, I think it's just per company, right? And like what people enjoy, like what the company culture is. And so it's up to you to like really choose that for yourself.
Yeah, with my current company, actually, we have unlimited paid time off. I have flexible hours, so it doesn't matter what time I stop working, as long as I get my stuff done. And yeah, that's really, really flexible. I can work from anywhere. They provide all the equipment for me to work at home, everything ergonomic, so it's good for posture and stuff. And if I do have an issue with like back pains or whatever, insurance covers that as well. So it's really, really great. Yeah, so pretty flexible in my opinion.
Same on my team. I have 2 kids. During the pandemic, I had no help, and they were extremely supportive. They knew I had 2 kids, and and also the nature of the job, depending on which company, of course, it really does come down to company, can be very flexible. So I really, for me, it's like I have the tickets I need to finish and the deadlines, and I'm transparent about when something can't be made. You know, there's something called sprints, and we kind of plan on that, have an agile workflow. But I would say, like for me, I was pregnant with my first kid on my first job coding. So I really kind of went through this trying to figure out how I'm going to balance everything, and was very nervous going into it. And it's probably why I'm in the same company for, you know, because I felt like that the culture worked for me. Like they were very supportive throughout all that, and even now during the pandemic. So you know, definitely when you interview, do the interview as well. Like you should interview them too in that way. That's really important, especially depending on what you want to build. If you're in a phase that you want to work those hours because you want to build your skill set, and for you, like that's what you want to do there, you know, then I also think life is phases, right? There's phases you're going to want to, you know, when I was starting out, I think I wanted to work, not that I wanted to not have a balance, but I wanted to like really dig deep and do that. And there's going to be phases where you want to just have much more different priorities. Like you have to prioritize all the time. It's kind of a roller coaster. Life's a roller coaster. It's never really that consistent.
One of the things we talk about at Flatiron School a lot is imposter syndrome, you know, that feeling of feeling like you're a fraud when you're learning something new. I think that's definitely something that women in particular will run up against, especially in a male dominated field. We had a question about how you kind of tackle imposter syndrome as a woman working in the tech industry.
Turning, everybody's thinking it through.
So for me, I think it's really knowing that like most people don't know what they're doing. Like we're all kind of learning together, and like the people who are traditional or, you know, normally represented in the industry are also kind of like just winging it, right? Like no one is a genius because like they are more represented in the industry. So like I don't think that you should feel out of place just because, you know, you don't see as many women or as many, you know, minority individuals in your workplace. They likely have the same level of intelligence as you. But I think the other thing is, again, like really owning your career. When you are being hired into a new job and you're starting, like they've hired you for a certain function, but like knowing that like that is like really your responsibility is to come up with a plan of success, right? Like how are you going to prove your value in like your first 90 days? So like for me, it's like really planning out like a 90-day onboarding and success plan. Like how am I going to make impact at my company here? And like having those milestones and goals is really what helps me like benchmark, be able to look back and say like, hey, this is what I've done in the last 30 days. This is what I'm going to do in the next 60 days, and like really owning that. And like, if you have a good manager, right? Like, I think your manager is what really affects like your day-to-day experience at a company. So like, if you have a manager you trust, like being able to communicate, you know, what is difficult when your workload is too much, what's working well, how they can support you, is really what's going to help you like overcome feelings of, you know, not being adequate in that space, because you're going to have your own goals set, you're going to have goals that match the company, and you're going to have people to support and surround, like a team that surrounds you with support in those spaces. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add on, I wrote some stuff down because I didn't want to forget it. But when it comes to imposter syndrome, sometimes I like to think of it like not always as something that's like a negative. Like when I used to do sports and stuff, when I was like really nervous, I would like shake a little bit and all that stuff. But my nervousness just meant that I kind of cared. So I feel like imposter syndrome, it's crazy because it's sometimes too like the people that need to feel imposter syndrome don't feel it, you know, like they think they know everything. And it's like, ooh, you don't want to correct them in the meetings. But what I'm trying to say is that like, you know, you're having that feeling, just showing that like you really care about this. And that like from talking to you all, it's like so clear to see that like you all are really good at your job, but then you also bring something else to the table, you know? So just know that like, okay, you might not know everything about the subject right now, but like maybe you're really great at communication and like you need that when building a product. You know, maybe you can bring your business, your marketing, like whatever your past is into the mix, and that can really like, you know, bring something to the team and like to whatever you're building. So that's another thing. And then like also for imposter syndrome, the last thing I wrote down is that surrounding yourself with like people that don't put you down is like super important. So like, you know, those negative Nancy's, because you are making a transition and some people might not see your vision. That's cool. When you over here made it, then they're gonna wish they made that transition too. So just kind of like not having all that negativity around you is helpful.
Love it.
I also wanted to add as well. So whenever I first started working in tech, I dealt with imposter syndrome really severely as well. Like there were so many nights where I cried myself to sleep, which is quite depressing. But anyways, moving on from that point, I think what really helped definitely was having a goal planner. So actually every year on the 1st of January, I take time and write down my goal for the year, things that I value and stuff like that. There are things, there are like goal planner journals that you can find online that can help you with goal setting and keeping like a daily check. So at the end of every night, I usually write in my journal like 5 things that I'm grateful for and 3 affirmations, and writing down like what I achieved today. So like crossing out things on my to-do list and stuff like that. But I think ultimately what really helped me understand and get over my imposter syndrome was just realizing that your work and just coding and your career path is not the only thing that defines you in life. But there's so many other things in life that make up who you are, right? Like, I don't know, every one of us is super unique, and you shouldn't just place your value on how well you can code. Like, I think, you know, coding is something that can fluctuate. Our ability to focus, our velocity of learning, all these things are things that can fluctuate. And you might be having other things in life that are affecting how well you perform at the moment, right? Like, for example, whenever I was doing the coding bootcamp at Flatiron School, like there were so many people who maybe had personal things going on, maybe they have kids, pets, elderly, people that they have to care for. And so coding wasn't everything, the only thing in their lives. So we need to be easy on ourselves as well and just realize that, yeah, there's so many other factors that make up who we are as an individual.
So true.
I love that. Just wanted to add one thing I also think about when I have imposter syndrome. And I think like I had it like starting out my career, and I had it again transitioning jobs. I think it shows up throughout your career, especially when you're trying something new or doing something unknown. And I like to think of it as we really are professional students. And that's when you look at it that way, you realize, okay, we're all just professional students, and the difference between somebody who knows a lot more or found the answer more quickly sometimes is just the experience of the amount of times they've seen the same problem. So not, again, like, I think it helps you think more clearly. I think, you know, and I like that Maya was saying imposter syndrome is not always a bad thing. Like, exactly, like, I think it does have also that part, but yeah. And again, support community, surrounding yourself with, making sure there's no toxicity around you is really important, because you just think more clearly.
I love that, professional students. And I see some people in the chat do as well. That's perfect.
Jessica asked a question. She is a self-learner. She's not able to take a boot camp right now because of financial constraints. Super hard not to get discouraged. Do you have any tips for someone who is doing, who is trying to learn on their own?
While you guys kind of think through some of your tips, I will say, you know, that there is, and I'm sure these ladies will speak to it in detail, but there's so many resources out there. And just as a quick plug for Flatiron School, we actually do have some free lessons and free resources on our website for, you know, product design, software engineering, data science, and cybersecurity. So definitely check those out. But I'll turn it back over to these ladies to talk about what they've done and the just complete plethora of information that's out there.
I'm not a coder, so I don't have tips for like self-teaching and staying motivated in that regard. But going off of Jocelyn's point, I'm in a meeting. Thanks. Sorry, y'all. Hi, baby. Yeah, so going off of Jocelyn's point, there's a ton of resources. If you join Baddies in Tech, like the free newsletter, like our email community, we send bi-weekly newsletters, and we share like free scholarships, free like boot camps, and like different things every 2 weeks. And so there's a ton of things that you can take part of that, you know, maybe you won't have to spend as much money in order to join like a bootcamp cohort or something like that. But there's a ton of resources that you can like kind of look for to help support that journey. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for that.
Yeah, to add on to that, I would say like, you know, something about it is that like, for example, I learned in a computer science like class and like from college, but it's like after that, when you need to learn new things on the job, you have to learn it yourself. Like there's no professor, there's no any of that. So like you being a self-learner now is going to like really benefit you later on in your career, just because like, you know, when I had to learn back end, I had to like, you know, do that on my own. So that's one thing. So I know it's hard now, but later on it's going to be like, you know, your secret weapon and like really helpful. And then something else I would say too is that like there are sometimes free programs that are out there. Like for example, I like tutored for Code in Place, which was like a program put on by Stanford, and it was Stanford professors that taught Python. So yeah, don't want to like plug everyone, but definitely follow us because we all talk about different resources, and we'll post it in our stories or like the Baddies in Tech newsletter, you know, Flatiron, like everywhere. So definitely like be on the lookout for that. And then like, it's really like, I also found myself getting discouraged a lot, and I wasn't even a self-learner, but just know that like, you know, I think it was Janine talking about it, but like, you know, even on days that it's like really hard to get started, just like put on a timer, 25 minutes, and see how far you get. And like doing that every day, just that little bit will take you so far.
I love that. I'm also going to interject one more thing. I saw a question that had come through that was similar. I think somebody was asking just about how to even choose like which path to even get started with. And again, you know, even as a boot camp, right? As Flatiron School, we always tell people, start with some of the free resources, start with teaching yourself certain things, because then when you are ready to take that step, when you do know, okay, this is the path I want to go down, you know, you already are equipped to know exactly what to expect. So everybody's journey is going to look different. And, you know, there's just so many different resources and people to pull from.
I think as well, I want to add, a lot of the times when we're learning, we focus so much on listening and like watching and like passively reading. But what I found really was the point in which I started to start solving problems was whenever I did group projects or personal projects. So actually removing, okay, like I know these like platforms help a lot, but the point in which I really started learning was whenever I was like, okay, I just want to build something now and actually put myself in the position where I don't know what to do. And then just like Googling answers, asking people for help and figuring out, because a lot of the times you can learn as much as you want through theory and through documentation and stuff. But when you start working in a company, you're going to have to face issues that no one has ever maybe come across, or things that you kind of have to tweak a little bit just to customize the solutions. So yeah, just try to jump in, build your own project. And if you're really stuck, then there's always going to be someone like in the community, someone online that can help you out for sure.
One more tip for studying in general, I really think that, and this Flatiron School actually taught me, when you want to learn something, try to teach it. So sometimes blogging your journey and causing that accountability for yourself and giving yourself deadlines for, you know, if you're, we call it like everyone's a procrastinator, really, like the whole world. Like you need sometimes those deadlines, like real deadlines. So to help you stay on track, life flies, and giving something, it could be something different for every person, but I feel like blogging on Medium, for example, as you're learning something new, not being afraid of putting it out there is super helpful. My apologies for the background noise. Yeah. But in general, anything that gives you that accountability could be helpful as well.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions before we wrap it up here. Obviously, so much great insight. We could honestly go for hours with all of the questions that we're getting. We did have a question I think we touched on a little bit earlier about what you should be looking for in a company to break into the tech industry. I know we talked a little bit about that from like a diversity angle. Are there any other things you wanted to add about what they should be looking for potential employers?
I think it's important to look for growth path, right? Like you're getting into the industry, you're new, you know, is there support for growing into mid-level and senior engineer if you're like in an engineering path? Like what are the ways in which your employer, your future manager sees you growing, and how do they support that growth? So I think that's like a really important thing to look for, and something that you can ask during your interview process. And you know, aside from like the culture and like diversity things that I mentioned earlier, I think like just again like owning your career, it's yours, like no one else owns it. So like really making sure you end up somewhere that they're going to support your growth, and like you being able to be vocal about what you want to grow into, and being supported in those things is really important.
Yeah, I think another thing that I look out for whenever I'm interviewing at companies is, for example, is there, if you're new into the industry, like, is there someone who can be like my peer programmer? So if you're stuck on anything, someone that you can kind of ask help from, maybe a senior engineer or someone like that. Another thing is if the company offers like training budget or budgets to go to events, conferences, stuff like that, that's something that I also value a lot. And thirdly, depending on what your preferences are really, but if you have any specific requirements, such as like working from home, or if you need that flexibility with your working hours, like anything, I feel like this question is really subjective to what you're looking for as an individual. But yeah, these are kind of the core things that I'd look out for.
Yeah, be the artist of your own life and go backwards, I think, right? Reverse engineer that. What do you want to really have in your life? What are your top values? What are things you're not willing to compromise on? Of course, like when you're starting out, sometimes you need to take different kinds of jobs to get into the industry, to get your foot in. But, and Allie touched on this before, transferable skills sometimes. I think if there's something you love in an industry you love, like music or media, like you could get back in, tech is everywhere, so you could get back into that if that's something that's really important to you too. You know, that could be also a direction.
Awesome.
I think we can wrap it up there. I think we'd like to just make sure that, you know, the folks on the line know where to find each of you. So if you don't mind just sharing, you know, whatever kind of profiles where that you want to promote here, you can drop them in the chat or also just say them out loud. Linda, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my one where I put tech content is at Linda Viva, and my shop is at Coding Crystals.
Okay, Janine.
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is JA9_LOOK. And then LinkedIn is just Janine-Look. So you find me there.
Nice. I see all the links coming in. Maya, did you want to say yours out loud just so it really sticks in people's minds?
Okay, yeah. I was having so much fun in this chat. So yeah. We gotta do this again. This was fun. But yeah, my YouTube is Maya Bello. And someone had a question about what the interview process looks like. And I have like a series on that. So definitely check that out. And then my Instagram is Maya Loves Code.
Awesome. And Allie? Baddies in Tech.
Yeah, I just posted it in the chat, but yes, follow Baddies in Tech for like tech related content. You can follow me if you want, but I don't post tech content because I don't like talking about tech in all aspects of my life. But if you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well, or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can talk professional stuff there.
Nice. Awesome. Definitely go and follow these ladies. You know, they are always putting out such great information. Today's conversation was just a touch, just touch the surface of all that they are constantly spitting out. Awesome. So I will put in one more reminder to everyone. Let's make this a Tech Girl Summer. This is the summer for us to change our lives, to get the career that we want, and to continue to, you know, push more women in tech. And Jordan, you can go ahead with what's next.
Yeah, no, and if, you know, if you're inspired today to pursue a career in tech and you are interested in potentially doing that with Flatiron School, there are a few next steps that you can take. One is just scheduling an introductory chat with our admissions team. No commitment, it's just your opportunity to ask all of the questions. You can attend another event. We host many of them every single week in cybersecurity, product design, software engineering, and data science. So if you're looking for a free place to learn something new, that's a good place to start. And then, as Jocelyn mentioned, you can apply for our Women Take Tech Scholarship, which is designed to break down barriers for women getting into the industry. I'll send all of these links in my recap email, but these are 3 ways you can get started. I think we've also shared, you know, a ton of different resources and inspiration to take kind of whatever the next step is for you. With that, I just want to say, one, thank you so much to our wonderful panelists for spending all of this time with us. Janine, thank you for staying up way past your bedtime to share your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Jocelyn for leading our conversation, and for all of you for your wonderful questions and engagement in the chat. This has been really awesome and inspirational, and we're so happy to have hosted it. All right, well, I hope to see everyone online again soon.
Yes. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.